Welcome back, warrior. We are on Alma chapter 48 now. Isn't that amazing? We're making progress. Alma's like the longest chapter in the Book of Mormon. Alma's the longest book in the Book of Mormon. But has some of the longest chapters, it feels like. Obviously, we are still not done with it. And it feels like every time we read, it's like a lot. Okay, so we're gonna read the summary. I forgot my glasses. Okay, that helped not at all. Okay, here we go. Amalickiah incites the Lamanites. Incites? Is that like a thing? Incites the Lamanites against the Nephites. I guess instigates. That could be another word. Moroni prepares his people to defend the cause of the Christians. He rejoiced in liberty and freedom and was a mighty man of God. How do you picture Moroni? I don't know. I'm trying to picture him like a strong dude, you know? Superhero type. All right. Oh, actually, my iPad's having problems here. I don't know why. Hey, today was a back to school day for our children. How about you? Did you have a child go back to school today or this week? It's always so hard. I'm always like, before school starts, I'm like, I can homeschool you. You could stay home with mom and it would be amazing. They're always like, no. I'm like, okay. It's fine, right? That they don't want to stay home with me. Like, I'm not going to take that personal. Okay, verse 1. Here we go. We did get up this morning and we got our back to school pictures because we love to do back to school pictures. Eventually, we'll have like a whole ton of pictures to reflect on. And then I had to embarrass my high schooler in front of his new high school. So, that was embarrassing for him. I didn't let him ride with his friends because I needed that picture. But I'm like, it's the only day that I need a picture. Like maybe, well, probably not. I mean, later I'll need pics of like prom and dances and things. But today I needed the back to school picture. So anyway, it's the school that we used to live by. And so we never imagined moving, but we always imagined them going there to that school. So it was kind of cool, but also kind of sad that we don't live that close anymore. So now we have to instead of walk there, we have to drive them there. But if he's going to catch a ride with friends, it's all the same, right? Okay. And I have a little tear in my lip. Anyway. And now it came to pass that as soon as Amalickiah had obtained the kingdom, he began to inspire the hearts of the Lamanites against the people of Nephi. Yea, he did appoint men to speak unto the Lamanites from their towers against the Nephites. And thus he did inspire their hearts against the Nephites, insomuch that in the latter end of the 19th year of the reign of the judges, he having accomplished his designs thus far, right? He became king and everything. Yea, having been made king over the Lamanites, right? He sought also to reign over all the land, yea, and all the people who were in the land, the Nephites as well as the Lamanites. Well, prepárate, because you're not going to be able to rule over the Nephites, right? Therefore, he had accomplished his design, for he had hardened the hearts of the Lamanites and blinded their minds and stirred them up to anger, insomuch that he had gathered together a numerous host to go to battle against the Nephites. For he was determined, because of the greatness of the number of his people, to overpower the Nephites and to bring them into bondage. And thus he did appoint chief captains of the Zoramites, they being the most acquainted with the strength of the Nephites and their places of resort and weakest parts of their cities. Therefore, he appointed them to be chief captains over his armies. Okay. And then it came to pass that they took their camp and moved forth toward the land of Zarahemla in the wilderness. Okay. So Amalickiah needed to come up with a plan that would defeat Moroni. He knew he needed a numerous host, so he tried to use the advantage he had, the greatness of the number of his people. He also did appoint chief captains of the Zormites, because they knew the Nephites' strengths and weaknesses. This army to attack the Nephites was being run by former Nephites. Everything here is carefully being positioned so he can gain more power. In verse 6, the Lamanites were going toward the Nephites, but what they will find there is something they never would have imagined. Oh, yes. Getting close. Chapter 49 is actually like one of my favorites, okay? All right, verse 7. Now it came to pass that while Amalickiah had thus been obtaining power by fraud and deceit, I'm like touching stuff, Moroni, on the other hand, had been preparing the minds of the people to be faithful unto the Lord their God. Yea, he had been strengthening the armies of the Nephites and erecting small forts or places of resort, throwing up banks of earth round about to enclose his armies, and also building walls of stone to encircle them about, round about their cities and the borders of their lands, yea, all round about the land. So fortifying and strengthening, right? And in their weakest fortifications, he did place the greater number of men, and thus he did fortify and strengthen the land which was possessed by the Nephites. And thus he was preparing to support their liberty, their lands, their wives, and their children, and their peace, and that they might live unto the Lord their God, and that they might maintain that which was called by their enemies the cause of Christians. Okay, I love all this prep he's doing to fortify and strengthen his people. And being as people are going back to school, all the kids are going back to school today and this week and stuff, it kind of reminds me of like, what are some things that we need to do to strengthen and to fortify our children to go into, quote unquote, Satan's battlegrounds, right? What are those things that you are doing to strengthen your children? Or what are things that you've done in the past to strengthen your children that maybe I might take advantage of, right? Like something that we used to do when we all rode together was we would do our affirmations, and I would have the boys do their affirmations, which is the young men theme. We didn't actually take it a step further and make our own, but the young men's theme is very powerful, so we use that for a while, and so our boys know that. We read scriptures before going to school, and sometimes we would exercise before going to school as well. And so those are some of the things that we like to do. Now, I wish I could say that we did those every single day. We were like so strong, but we don't do that every single day. And so we need to have patience and compassion with ourselves because we aren't that consistent. But what are some things that you do to kind of soften the heart of your children to like do those things without being so, I don't know how to put it, so mean about it every time they have to do stuff? I don't know. It's like, I think when you're a teenager, you're just like always grumpy or something. Who knows? But it is the worst. The worst. And I'm like wondering, was I like this? I didn't think I was like this, but maybe I was like this. I don't think I could have been like this. I had a Hispanic mom. Anyway, and I think I have been weakened over the space of time or whatever. Have you ever seen LeJuan James videos? Look it up. They're hilarious. It's basically him acting like his mom and him like acting like his dad and him as a child. It's the best. Anyways, so First, they prepared spiritually. President Nelson gave a similar message. He said, "The Lord has told us that if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear." Of course, we can store our own reserves of food, water, and savings. But equally crucial is our need to fill our personal spiritual storehouses with faith, truth, and testimony. Ooh, that was from April 2020 General Conference. Oh, end quote earlier there. So the Nephites were also strengthening themselves physically. They were strengthening their armies, building forts, making hills of dirt and stone walls to encircle the armies. Building these fortifications would have taken a lot of planning, energy, supplies, time, and work. But their lives depended on it, right? The enemy was coming, so they needed to be prepared. Elder Razvan likened this to how we need to build our own fortresses to protect us from Satan. Thank you, Elder Razvan. He said, quote, "Brothers and sisters, we are at war with Satan for the souls of men. The battle lines were drawn in our pre-earth life. Satan and a third of our fathers in heaven's children turn away from his promises of exaltation. Since that time, the adversary's minions have been fighting the faithful who choose the Father's plan. Satan knows his days are numbered, and that time is growing shorter. As crafty and cunning as he is, he will not win. However, his battle for each one of our souls rages on. For our safety, we must build a fortress of spirituality and protection for our very souls, a fortress that will not be penetrated by the evil one." Oh, end quote. Amazing, right? Elder Ronald A. Razvan, April 2019 General Conference. Ooh, I'm reading that General Conference right now, and I'm excited to get there. Okay. All right. I wish there was some way that, like, it wouldn't be, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm about to say. I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay. Anyways. Don't mind me. We're fine. Okay, verse 11. "And Moroni was a strong and a mighty man. He was a man of a perfect understanding, yea, a man that did not delight in bloodshed, a man whose soul did joy in the liberty and freedom of his country, and his brethren from bondage and slavery." Do you imagine Moroni being lazy? I can't even. Do you imagine Moroni sitting and watching a TV show? I can't. Which is sad, because that's what we like to do. Just watch one thing before we go to bed or something, to kind of chill down. Anyway, yep, definitely don't see Moroni doing that. He's all like, "What project can we do?" I can imagine. Actually, that's not his voice. That sounded more like Mickey. Verse 12. "Yea, a man whose heart did swell with thanksgiving to his God for the many privileges and blessings which he bestowed upon his people. A man who did labor exceedingly for the welfare and safety of his people." That's right. And no wonder we all want men like that. Okay, "Yea, and he was a man who was firm in the faith of Christ, and he had sworn with an oath to defend his people, his rights, and his country, and his religion, even to the loss of his blood." His wife was probably like, "Actually, maybe not to the loss of his blood," okay? Now the Nephites were taught to defend themselves against their enemies, even to the shedding of blood, if it were necessary. Yea, and they were also taught never to give an offense, yea, and never to raise the sword, except it were against an enemy, except it were to preserve their lives. And this was their faith, that by so doing, God would prosper them in the land, or in other words, if they were faithful in keeping the commandments of God, that he would prosper them in the land, yea, warn them to flee or to prepare for war according to their danger. And also God will make, and also that God would make it known unto them whither they should go to defend themselves against their enemies. And by so doing, the Lord would deliver them. And this was the faith of Moroni, and his heart did glory in it, not in the shedding of blood, but in doing good, in preserving his people, yea, in keeping the commandments of God, yea, and resisting iniquity. Yea, verily, verily, I say unto you, if all men had been, and were, and ever would be, like unto Moroni, behold, the very powers of hell would have been shaken forever. Yea, the devil would never have power over the hearts of the children of men. It's like one of my favorites. Okay, behold, he was a man like unto Ammon, the son of Mosiah, yea, and even the other sons of Mosiah, yea, and also Alma and his sons, for they were all men of God. Okay, something that I really love here is that Moroni was like the sons of Mosiah and Alma, and you're like, wait, take it back a notch, right? Like, remember Alma? He was totally talking bad about the church and doing evil things, making more work for his dad and not doing what he was supposed to, right? He was with the sons of Mosiah, right? And then they were all making bad choices at some point, and who had to come and tell them to like stop playing? It was an angel of the Lord. And so they turned their lives around and became missionaries and became awesome missionaries, and like, you know, were amazing, right? And now when we talk about them, we're like, Ammon and the sons of Mosiah are amazing, right? But you remember that they were so bad. And then it says that Moroni was like unto Ammon and the sons of Mosiah and Alma. And so it doesn't say that like Moroni was perfect, and they're not saying that Mosiah's sons and Alma was perfect, but they're saying that they were all men of God. And I love that, because yeah, I want Moroni. See, he doesn't have to be perfect. He could have made mistakes, but I just need him to know what's up now, right? That's what I want. Okay, and then that's what we all want. Now behold, Helaman and his brethren were no less serviceable unto the people than was Moroni. So Helaman was up there. For they did preach, for they did preach the word of God, and they did baptize unto repentance all men, whosoever would hearken unto their words. And thus they went forth, and the people did humble themselves because of their words, insomuch that they were highly favored of the Lord, and thus they were free from wars and contentions among themselves, yea, even for the space of 4 years. But as I have said, sometimes I can't read. In the latter end of the 19th year, yea, notwithstanding their peace amongst themselves, they were compelled reluctantly to contend with their brethren, the Lamanites. See, reluctantly, like they don't want to contend. They're just like, really though? Do we have to contend with you guys all the time? Like, just go mind your own biz, you know? Yea, and in fine, their wars never did cease for the space of many years with the Lamanites, notwithstanding their much reluctance. Now they were sorry to take up arms against the Lamanites, because they did not delight in the shedding of blood. Yea, and this was not all. They were sorry to be the means of shedding so many of their brethren out of this world into an eternal world, unprepared to meet their God. Yeah, they really were unprepared, right? Because they were still like Lamanites and not converted. So this was the charity that they felt for their enemies. And then, nevertheless, they could not suffer to lay down their lives, that their wives and their children should be massacred by the barbarous cruelty of those who were once their brethren, yea, and had dissented from the church, and had left them, and had gone to destroy them by joining the Lamanites, right? That's their reason that they were fighting. Yea, they could not bear that their brethren should rejoice over the blood of the Nephites, so long as there were any who should keep the commandments of God. For the promise of the Lord was, if they should keep the commandments, they should prosper in the land. Okay. Some quotes. Okay. Oh, I was going to read some quotes. We are not quite at the read it, live it yet. Okay, so this was one of the quotes I was going to read. As President Ezra Taft Benson quoted these scriptures when he taught this. And like Moroni, he was mighty when he said it. Here we go. Quote, in spite of the scriptural evidence and the counsel of modern day prophets, during the past more than 100 years, there are still some who seem to feel we have no responsibility to safeguard and strengthen our precious God-given freedom. There are some who apparently feel that the fight for freedom is separate from the gospel. They express it in several ways, but it generally boils down to this. Just live the gospel. There's no need to get involved in trying to save freedom and the Constitution or to stop communism. Of course, This is dangerous reasoning because in reality, you cannot fully live the gospel without working to save freedom and the Constitution and to stop communism. In the war in heaven, what would have been your reaction if someone had told you just to do what is right? There's no need to get involved in the fight for freedom. Of course, the war in heaven over free agency is now being waged here on earth. And there are those today who are saying, look, don't get involved in the fight for freedom. Just live the gospel. That counsel is dangerous, self-contradictory, unsound. The Book of Mormon pays tribute to General Moroni in these words. And Moroni was a strong and a mighty man. He was a man of perfect understanding, yea, a man that did not delight in bloodshed, a man whose soul did joy in the liberty and the freedom of his country and his brethren from bondage and slavery. Yea, he was a man who was firm in the faith of Christ, and he had sworn with an oath to defend his people, his rights, and his country and his religion, even to the loss of his blood. And then Moroni is paid this high tribute. Yea, verily, verily, I say unto you, if all men had been and were and ever would be like unto Moroni, behold, the very powers of hell would have been shaken forever. Yea, the devil would never have power over the hearts of the children of men. Now, part of the reason we may not have sufficient priesthood bearers to save the Constitution, let alone to shake the powers of hell, is because, unlike Moroni, I fear our souls do not joy in keeping our country free, and we are not firm in the faith of Christ, nor have we sworn with an oath to defend our rights and the liberty of our country. End quote. Wow, that's intense. Now remember, President Benson worked with the government back in the day, so he knows what's up. And this is given in October 1966 General Conference. Okay, and then now that is the last quote that I was going to read before our Read It, Live It. Okay, now our Read It, Live It comes from verse 17. It says it's for verse 48 and 49, but we're going to just do it for 48 because 49 is separate. So if all men had and were and ever would be like unto Moroni, behold, the very powers of hell would have been shaken forever. Oh, yes. And the challenge is be a hell shaker. Yes, that is awesome. I really want to be a hell shaker. The visual is hilarious, but like putting into practice will be really awesome. All right. Well, until my favorite chapter coming up, verse in Alma 49. I think it's Alma 49. Is it Alma 49 verse 50 or is it Alma 50 verse 49? I don't know. We're gonna find out. I think it's 49. Anyways, until Alma chapter 49. Stay strong, warrior, and remember, be a hell shaker.